the artists to this exhibition, Renaissance, Variety in Bloom. Like I said, the 4 artists who are shown, being Collymore-Taylor, he is the one who organized this exhibition. Don Small, to my left, Andrew Fenty in the right, and Larrie Belgrave. I haven't seen Larrie as yet. We're going to have a brief, the formalities will be very brief this evening. Next on the agenda, remarks from the President. The President, I don't see him here. So the President has just arrived, so I'm going to ask him to come straight to the podium and give his remarks. This is Mr. Denzel Mann, President of the Barbados Arts Council.
Good evening, fellow artists, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure as both president of this noble institution and as a colleague to make a contribution in support of Wayne, Don, and Andrew, 3 of Barbados' long-standing and committed artists at this evening's opening. I've known these 3 artists and gentlemen for a number of years, and a common thread which I've observed as an outstanding link which separates them from most is commitment. In a period when commitment to anything seems to have been relegated to non-conformity, due in large measure to much negative social influence, as seen in lifestyle trends in the youth, or young and old adults, and even senior members of our society, being able to stage a collaborative exhibition is commendable because of the high level of sacrifice, planning, and patience associated with its symbiotic nature. All 3 artists here, over the years, have been prolific in this discipline and have contributed much to the historic fabric of Barbadian art and its development. And that among the young interests by the sheer example of staying the course and modeling the type of behavior necessary for the creation of a legacy for future Barbadian artists. To this end, I would like you to join me in congratulating these 4 runners and major contributors to the rich artistic Barbadian soil from which many will one day reap a harvest of fruits of theirs and the labor of many other committed artists, some still among us, and some hopefully basking somewhere in artistic heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Denzel. Next on the agenda, we're going to have some very brief introductory remarks by the 3 artists. And I'm going to ask Mr. Collymore-Taylor to step forward as the person who organized this exhibition to start.
Thank you, Neville. I'm happy to see the audience. They're very attractive. I'm a teacher. I walk, I roof over my school here. And I feel, right, who always motivate me to do some work for this one. But I'm here just to thank you all for the support. I must thank also the Attorney General for accepting the invitation to speak on behalf of the 4 artists. And I also must thank also the other artists that participated with me, because without them, this art would not be a fusion. And it wasn't easy, right, against the odds. And I thank them for their resilience and their perseverance. So I trust that God will continue to bless them. Not only that we will continue to paint and be inspired. With your presence, I believe I have that inspiration. I will continue to paint. Amen. Praise God. Thank God.
Thank you very much, Neville. I just want to say some brief things about this exhibition. Renaissance. I'm even forgetting the title now. Anyway, but there are 2 things that come to mind when I think of this exhibition. The first one, I appreciate the fact that it will help me to come back to the artistic realm again, because I was out for a little while. So in a sense, it's a rebirth for me, and hopefully we will do much more work. Secondly, I'm hoping that this renaissance, this outburst of artistic creativity that Barbadians have, and whatever flavor, which is symbolic of the idea of variety, whatever flavor it has to come forth. We're hoping that this exhibition will challenge people to come forth, challenge Barbadians to come forth with their expressions of art, expressions of whatever it is, and bombard the landscape, because I believe this spirit of entrepreneurship, once it comes back, and once we bombard this country with what we have, because what we have is good. We are very timid about promoting what we have, but I'm hoping this exhibition will encourage us to come forth as Barbadians and bombard this landscape with our expressions. And this is what I believe can take this country forward. The idea, the collective contributions of all the resources and all the talents and skills that we have coming forth, bombarding the environment, promoting opportunities for us to go forward. I believe this is what I'm hoping this exhibition will accomplish, that, help us to go forward as a nation so we can all appreciate the art and recognize its value to the nation, building the nation development. Thank you so much for coming, and have a good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for coming. Why I paint, I say that I'm an artist first, but I'm also a teacher in secondary school. And I paint, I create basically to set an example for those that I teach. While I'm teaching, sometimes I would draw along with the students, and they would say, "Sir, you know this to make a shame." I said, "No, I'm showing what is possible. This is the example." And a lot of students that I teach do not see a future in art or a need for art, but I'm trying to prove them wrong. What I do, I try to document history. I think all artists do. A bit more on the realistic side. Well, Andrew, they have a lot of conceptual work which provoke a lot of ideas and thoughts. And I hope that you, the spectator, the viewer, will look into some of those pieces or all of our pieces and basically have an interaction with these pieces. And I saw Ray's friends. I admire one of Fenty's work, and basically the rapture of the church. And I guess as Christians, all Christians, that should be probably one of the main pieces, because I guess we look forward to that day, once we are ready and ready with God. And that's all I have to say for the evening. Just enjoy and purchase some art. Thank you.
I was not here present. Now this evening we are indeed honored to have in our presence the Honorable Gabriel Braffett, Attorney General of Barbados, and he is going to be the one to deliver the official address, and I'm sure that you are eagerly excited in anticipation of what he has to say. So without any further ado, Attorney General.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Master. Certainly that was not the agreement. The agreement was that I was going to speak for 4.5 minutes. So, good afternoon, everyone. And it is indeed a pleasure to address you. In fact, when I received this invitation from my good friend Ray, I we just come out of the general election, and one of the things that I remembered most of all in my canvassing was an encounter I had with a young artist. And when you're canvassing, one of the first rules in canvassing is you don't argue with constituents. And I ended up in a bit of an argument with this young lady, not about politics, but about art, and about whether or not government has been doing enough to assist artists. And her thesis was that successive governments have not been doing enough to assist artists to maximize their potential. In fact, she was very disillusioned by what was happening in Barbados with respect to artists, in particular to young artists like herself. And I said to her, well, I'm a bit of a neophyte when it comes to art, but what you can use me as a vessel, as a conduit, to see how best as a country and how best as a government that we're able to assist young artists like yourself. You have the imagination, you have the creativity. I don't profess to have the imagination or the creativity. But I believe that as a politician, that my role is to fulfill what the people want, and if indeed the artistic community in Barbados believes that there's more that government should be doing and can be doing, then you should use whatever opportunities that you have. Even if, like the way you can just call me up and say, well, AG, I need to have a chat with you. But whatever opportunities there are to ensure that we can move art to a place where, let me give you another illustration. I thought, now what can I say to young artists? What can I say to artists this afternoon? And I did a Google search. I did a Google search on Barbados art, on the history of Barbados art, on Barbadian art. And I didn't see a lot, I have to say to you. In fact, I must say that I was disappointed in what I saw. I then thought, well, all right, well, I know a few places that I visited, and that art, it almost seemed insulting to leave these shores without purchasing a piece of art. Haiti is a good example. Now, we all know that about the history of art in Haiti. When I did my Google search yesterday, I saw that Haiti had an art school in 1846, I believe. It was established in 1846. Now, I'm not sure when we had an art school. In fact, if memory serves me correctly, and I might be wrong, O'Malley, you can correct me when I'm wrong, but when I think of art in terms of any systematic way, is probably when we set up the campus at the community college. But I could be wrong, and that would have been only a few years ago. I looked at Jamaica, and I see Jamaica speaking of having art going back to 1000 AD, and having art and having an artistic community generated by the Spanish, who I think came to Jamaica in 1494. I then looked at Cuba, who we all know that if you go to Cuba, you're taken to the art village, well, to an area like this, where all the artists and writers are there, and you're encouraged to purchase a piece of art. And again, in terms of Cuba, their contact with art goes back to the early 19th century. There's a Spanish influence. There's a pre-Castro influence. There's a post-Castro influence. Many artists, from what I saw, left Cuba in 1959 because they made a significant living selling art to the hundreds of tourists that came into Cuba before Castro. The point is that when I looked, in my brief look at art in some of our CARICOM neighbors and friends, what I saw contrasts with what I saw with respect to Barbados. And I'm not going to accept responsibility as part of government for the fact that I did not see a rich history when I had my look. Maybe it is that it's out there, but we have not been exposed. Maybe it is that, in fact, that you need to ensure, or we as a country need to ensure that our rich history of art is known to more Barbadians, and certainly known to someone like myself. I consider myself to be a neophyte when it comes to art. But you'll be happy to hear, artists, that I am a supporter, because if you enter my home or my office, you will see that over the years that I do purchase art, and I do purchase local art. One of the things I said before we started, I said to Wayne and I think it's the Master Swimmer, forgive me for not remembering your name, how can we make art accessible where the average Barbadian believes that he can purchase or should purchase a piece of art for his or her home, as opposed to believing that art is a bit of a luxury and only certain people purchase art. But I think part of that is education. Part of that is that you artists have to educate our people into understanding the value of art, into understanding that art is part of everything that we do. From the simplest thing, from the shirt that you wear, it begins with a drawing of some kind. I don't think that we realize how important art is and has been to everything that we do and to our development. And that's what we need to do. If we are to move art mainstream, where artists are seen as significant contributors to the development of this country, and recognize that artists, in fact, record the history of our country and history of civilization. How many of you remember that there used to be a rum shop? Dr. Bess, you may remember that there used to be a rum shop at the bottom of the Central Bank corner there. How many of you remember? I do. How many of you have a picture of the rum shop or used to go into it? Now the only way that it is recorded is through art. And I'm the proud owner of such a painting. Because as a youngster going to Harrison College, I used to pass that rum shop many a morning. I didn't go into it, but I used to pass it many a morning. The point, though, on a simplistic basis, is the utility of art to record our history as a people. And I know that this afternoon's presentation is Renaissance, Variety in Bloom. And maybe, if nothing else, Wayne and team, let this afternoon be indeed your Renaissance. But let it also be a time when more of our ordinary Barbadians are exposed to art. If it is that you need to bring us in and teach us and show us the value of what you're doing. Expose us so we understand the work involved and the simplest piece of art that you create. Maybe we'll have a better appreciation to your craft, to your energy, and to the value of any paintings that you make available. I wish you success. I am one, as an outsider, I recognize the special talent that artists have. And therefore, it is with great pleasure that I came to say a few words to you this afternoon. And I hope that in my little way, that I've at least exhibited an appreciation for the talent that you guys have, as artists possess, and the energy that it takes to create the pieces that you do. I wish you success. I thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the Attorney General for those warm remarks and his encouragement to the artists and to Barbadian artists in general. And to also know that he is a collector of Barbadian art. And after listening to your speech, before we had decided to make a presentation to you, sir. Last year, in the month of June, to honor Barbados, Bridgetown as a World Heritage status site, we did an exhibition here in commemoration, and about 25 or so artists took part. And that rum shop we talked about is also featured in this catalog, done by artists Dollar Small. And so we're going to present you one of our catalogs and hope that you enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now that part of the evening's proceedings over. Sorry? No, I think the arrangement is that after the play is fully paid for, you can receive the work. But there are arrangements to be made, and every piece of artwork is accessible. So this misconception that art is for certain people and art is for the elite and the rich is a misconception. It's something that we need to dispel. And I want you to know this evening, in a very real way, that art is affordable, it is accessible to every Barbadian if you want to own a piece. So I want to thank you for being a very attentive audience and to ask you to enjoy the refreshments and also enjoy the various performances by the artists, the performing artists. Thank you very much.